So we started teaching together in the English department here at Auburn High School when I was 22. And
Yes.
So that would have been 2005, year 2004, 2005 year.
Right.
And we both knew pretty quickly that we were both Catholic.
Yes.
But I did not know that you, at one point in your life, had decided that you were going to take that to the next level and become a monk.
Well, it was a distant plan, but yes, that was true. That is true.
How old were you when you first started thinking about becoming a monk?
Okay, well, I went to Catholic school all the way through up until college, and I think it's a stage everyone goes through because it's like, all the people you know and respect are priests or nuns or someone, in the Catholic faith. So yeah, when you're kind of figuring out like what do I want to be when I grow up, it's the first thing that pops in your head is, oh my God, I'll take the vocation or whatever they call it. So yeah, I mean, I think it's normal. I think every Catholic kid goes through it, especially if they go to Catholic school. So anyway, so 7th, 8th grade, I started like talking to the priest about it seriously, and then girls happened in about 9th grade.
Right.
And and then that just got put on the back burner. Plus everything else with just getting through high school. So so that being said, so I could never see myself as being a priest. So one of the things that my preacher talked to me is, there are other things you can do. He talked about being a deacon. He said, you're not a priest, you can still get married. You don't have to deal with as many people. Like he knew that I was very, very shy. But then he talked about, well, what about the brotherhood instead of the priesthood, which people know as being a monk. And he talked about the various things that they do. Some of them basically just sit in a room and study ancient texts and, continually 2,000 years later, they're still trying to interpret the Bible and things like that. And
this appealed to you.
And I was like, holy moly, got it.
That's so great.
So he was kind of selling it, in that way, which appealed. And that, so I could still, have the faith and serve God or serve the Catholic Church, but I could do it in a way that would kind of fit my personality, or so I thought. So that's what made me kind of start leaning toward that way. But then again, all that happened, and then girls happened in high school, and that blew everything.
But you still went to some sort of camp experience where...
Well, okay, senior year of high school, our school every year would send a small group of people who it was basically just a fun trip. Like you just had to say, yes, I'm interested in being a priest, and they would put you on a plane and fly you up to St. Meinrad Seminary, which is where a lot of our local priests go to seminary. And you'd stay there for a week, and you'd live, it's like a small college. You'd live in the dorms, and you'd eat in the cafeteria. They take you different classes, and it's really a recruiting trip is really what it is. But it was all expenses paid, and kind of a big deal when you're a senior to just go away with some of your friends for a week.
Right.
So my priest at the school at that time said, hey, John, why don't you do this? And I was still kind of on... at that point I was leaning away from that. But when he mentioned it, some of my friends were going, because, hey, it's a week off of school, we're going to have fun, let's go. So I'm like, all right, let's go. So I went on this trip. Well, we got there, and it was the first college that I really toured other than Auburn, and I liked it. Like, it had the old the brick buildings. It looks like a college, a small college, but it looks like a college. So I was immediately drawn to that. And this school, like so many other schools, have all these legends and weird stories that nobody knows if they're true or not. But there was a legend of Brother Abraham. He is this old monk, and the monks still live there. They're cloistered, which means they don't really intermingle with everyone else, but they do live on the property. And between where they live and the school itself is an old, like, scary cemetery, like you'd see, with the moss coming down, and it's just like it looks creepy, just old, beautiful tombstones. Well, the legend was that this Father Abraham passed away, but if you go out late at night, you could still see him in the cemetery.
Yeah.
Like you'll see his ghost walk through the cemetery.
Right.
So we go out, and I forget, like you have to be at 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is, and we went, and it's foggy and dark, and sure enough, at 3 o'clock in the morning, this spectral image, old, long hair, gray beard, brown robe, just kind of walks through the far end of the cemetery.
Oh my gosh.
So we're all like, oh, we're seeing a ghost, it's Brother Abraham. So we go back and we're all excited, and we decide we're going to do it every night that we're there for the week. So, the next night we get up and do it, the next night, and, by the third or fourth night, everyone's bored, like, we've seen the ghost, enough is enough. So the last night, I was the only one who went, but I'm like, this is the coolest freaking thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So I went out there again, And this time, the ghost of Brother Abraham comes over to me. And he just kind of, he like gets about 3 feet away.
Right.
And he says, "This is not the life for you." So I'm like, okay. And he said, he repeated, he said, "This is not the life for you." And I look at him kind of quizzically, because at that point, I was almost starting to feel it. I'm like, I could do this. I could be a monk. That's what I want to do. And then he said, and to this day, I don't know what this means, but he said, "The kids need you." And then he walked off. Okay? But I do know, since I've been teaching, and I can't get into details here, obviously, but there was one kid who got into a lot of trouble, where he was getting beaten up at home and got kicked out and was kind of living on the street. And as a young teacher, I was just an idiot. I would never do this today. But, I found out about it, and I let him stay at my apartment for a few days. And I got in touch with his mom, who lived like in New York or New Jersey or something, so she at least knew. And she was making arrangements to get him shipped up there. But, so I'm thinking maybe it's something like that, where, I just had to be there to help that one kid. But he said plural, so I'm waiting for the next one, and then I can retire. It was just kind of a weird thing where I think the right thing happened at the right time.